everybody, Sticks here at the Token Minorities, bringing you an out-of-schedule upload because it is Friday afternoon and I am completely bored, so I figured why the heck not just make a deck and upload a video for you guys that, like I said, is completely out of schedule, but I am so bored, so I figured I might as well bring you guys a little something extra for your weekend, and that is a dark deck that is centered around Ninja Boy. Now, this is an idea that I definitely did not steal from my friend Orabomb, who you should definitely not go check out, and whose channel is definitely not linked in the description. Now that I've said all the things that you shouldn't do, what you should do is leave a like, comment, and maybe even subscribe if you enjoyed this video or found it helpful. It really does help us out and lets us do more for you guys. But like I said, onto the deck. This is a dark deck centered around Ninja Boy with a bunch of different dark type attackers, just kind of a, I guess, dark ninja box or dark Ninja Boy, really whatever you want to call it. Basically, it revolves around 3 different dark type attackers and Ninja Boy, who is really sort of taking the metagame by storm. Not particularly. I mean, I know that there's a Vileplume Ninja Boy deck that's going around that's pretty good. There's an expanded Ninja Boy deck with Ho-Oh and Rebirth. But I guess what I forgot to do is ask for the question of the day, and that is what of the most recent supporters do you think is going to have the biggest impact on the metagame? Now, that can be anything from, I guess, Steam Siege or Fates Collide. I guess Fates Collide brought us, I think Delinquent was in Fates Collide. I'm not completely sure. You know what? Let's go ahead and check that out right now. Let's go ahead and look for Delinquent. And was that in? Nope, that was all the way back in Breakpoint. So I am a dirty, dirty liar. But anyway, what of the recent supporters do you think will have the biggest impact on the metagame? The biggest ones that come to mind are like Pokemon Ranger, Ninja Boy, and then there's a new one coming out in Evolutions called Brock's Grit, where it's basically, I think, a Super Rod on steroids, if I remember that correctly. And honestly, if I had to answer that question, I would say that the supporter I think that's going to have the biggest impact on the metagame is going to be Pokemon Ranger, just because you see that in a ton of decks now as just a one-of tech card. I mean, you obviously have the Sycamores, the Ends, the Lysanders, because those guys are staples, but now everybody is starting to throw a Pokemon Ranger, or mostly throwing a Pokemon Ranger into a lot of different decks, just because they help with things like item lock, they help with trainer lock, they help, well, trainer lock and item lock I guess are the same thing, but with Giratina's Chaos Wheel, they help with things like Glaceon EX, Jolteon EX, Regice. They help with Volcanions not being able to attack next turn. Basically, it's just kind of an all-purpose tech card, which is really, really helpful in a lot of situations. So that's why I think Pokemon Ranger is the most influential supporter of the recent sets. Leave your answer to the question of the day in the comment section below. I would love to hear what you guys think is the most influential new supporter and why. But now, finally, after 3 minutes, onto the deck. Like I said, centered around dark types and Ninja Boy. If you look through these dark types, you'll see that Umbreon EX has Endgame, which is darkness and 2 colorless. You'll see that Yveltal, well, this Yveltal in particular, has an attack for darkness and 2 colorless, and then Yveltal EX has darkness and 2 colorless, so they have all of basically the same energy costs, which you can just kind of use Ninja Boy to rotate through depending on the attacker. I will get to what each one does as I go through, but I think I'm just going to go straight along the line and start with Shaymin EX because Shaymin is Shaymin. Get that draw support, get that fast start, all of that, and Shaymin is just such a great card. Only running 2 copies though. You can run 3. I just decided to run 2 because you normally have a relatively busy bench overall, and you can definitely put in more, like I said, but I just went with 2 because I'm also running 2 of the Absol with the Cursed Eyes. When you play this Pokemon from your hand onto your bench, you may move 3 damage counters from one of your opponent's Pokemon to another of his or her Pokemon. This helps set up KOs with Pitch Black Spear from Fright Night Yveltal, among other things, so that's just a great card to have. And also against Rainbow Road, if you have 60 damage down, you can go ahead and just play down an Absol, knock out one of those Joltik, take a prize, and go from there while still having some damage on the board. So Absol is a very, very nice tech to have, and can also set up some KOs with Umbreon in the right situation. Now, onto Umbreon. This card was one of the coolest arts I think I have ever seen, just because that background is so ridiculously sick, and then Umbreon's got the booty right here, but that's beside the point. This card is very good in certain matchups. Now you might look at this deck and realize that we're not going to be one-shotting a lot of stuff, as this Yveltal is our main attacker. We're going to be putting 60 and 60 on EXs the majority of the time. Umbreon is good because of Endgame and Ninja Boy combination. Umbreon by itself, you normally wouldn't really be powering it up because it's not too good, because if your opponent's not playing any Megas, then this is just kind of a dead card in the deck more often than not. But if your opponent is, and you have racked up enough damage with Pitch Black Spears, moved around damage with Absol, set up a Pokemon in the right way to be knocked out by Endgame, then Umbreon becomes ridiculously good, because if you knock out a Mega Evolution Pokemon by damage from Endgame, you take 2 more prizes. So Umbreon takes you 4 prizes in a single turn with Endgame. That is ridiculous against Mega decks, and is definitely worth a spot in this deck, especially when we're going to be setting things up with Yveltal. I mean, they're going to hit numbers like 120, 180, and any Mega will be knocked out by Endgame if it hits 180 from Pitch Black Spear, which you'd be surprised. You can get a good number of these guys off. Then Umbreon comes in, just immediately take that guy out, take 2 prizes, and odds are, while you were Pitch Black Spearing, you were also knocking out a Shaymin or a Hoopa or something like that was played down, which that's the game right there, just from taking 2 knockouts. That's why Umbreon is so strong and why it's in this deck. The main attacker is going to be Fright Knight Yveltal, and Fright Knight alone is a ridiculously good ability that can swing some matches so far in your favor. I mean, Mega matches, not only is Umbreon good for the Mega matchups, but Fright Knight shuts off tool cards as well, so now your opponent has to waste a turn to Mega Evolve without attacking, which gives you another turn to Pitch Black Spear and rack up damage, and that is ridiculously good in Pitch Black Spear. I mean, 60 and 60 to EXs, you really couldn't ask for much more from a basic Pokemon, so that's why this guy's our main attacker. We're also using one of the baby Yveltal, just because, I mean, Oblivion Wing is very nice for being able to just accelerate energy from our discard pile and do chip damage here and there. And then we're also running one Yveltal break. Baleful Knight is really good sometimes if you can spread enough damage around with the Fright Knight and Absol and stuff like that, to where you can do 120 and then 30 to each bench Pokemon that has damage on it. But really what I have found that this guy is used most for is attacking things like Jolteon, to where it shuts down basic Pokemon and stuff like that with its attacks. So this gives you an evolution in some of those matchups, and admittedly Jolteon will still knock it out with a Fighting Fury Belt. But if Jolteon does not have a Fighting Fury Belt, well, actually no, that's right, I completely forgot. Because of Fright Knight, Jolteon will not be able to one-shot your Yveltal break, so that guy just makes the Jolteon matchup a little bit better, because otherwise Jolteon, you need to rely on Pokemon Ranger in order to take it on effectively. Fright Knight Yveltal with an Yveltal break on it, it just becomes that much more powerful. And Baleful Knight is a decent attack if you get the right circumstances, but this deck isn't really reliant on that. We're running 2 of the Yveltal EX as our big bad attacker. Put a bunch of energy on this guy and just run through your opponent's team. And then also running 1 little baby Mew just for the versatile ability. If it has a Darkness Energy and a DCE on it, well, it can use any of these guys' attacks. Mew can even use Endgame to take to one-shot something like a Mega Mewtwo, and that is actually really awesome. I've been able to pull that off once. I would love to be able to pull that off in this game as well, because all you have to do is just hit a Mewtwo with 2 Pitch Black Spears, send in Mew EX, hit the Mega Mewtwo for weakness, and boom, you win. So that's why this guy's in this deck, just to have some type, I guess, type variety and be able to add a little bit more versatility. You can definitely replace it if you want. I've just really come to like this guy in the deck, so that's why there's a copy of it in there. As for the items, we're running 2 Energy Switch, mostly because of the combination of Max Elixir and Energy Switch being able to power up a Pitch Black Spear in one turn. Just throw a DCE onto that guy, hit a Max Elixir, and then Energy Switch it onto them, and boom, you're hitting for 60 and 60 turn 1. Running 1 Super Rod to put some stuff back into our deck. I'm going to speed up a little bit because I've been rambling for way too long, and a lot of these guys are self-explanatory. Running 1 Switch in case you start with something that you don't want to. 4 Trainer's Mail to help with consistency, 4 Ultra Ball to guaranteed get everything out, 4 VS Seeker to reuse all of our supporters. And then as for the supporter line, we're running my generic 1 Lysander, 1 Ranger and then 2/4 of N and Sycamore. I mean, that's just a line that is personal to me. It's something you can definitely tweak for your, I guess, your personal play style and your personal preference. But then we're also running 2 of the Ninja Boy because this guy is so vital to the strategy, and because we have VS Seeker, we don't need to run that many. So just running 2 is plenty in this deck. We're running 2 Parallel City, 2 Disrupt Mega Rayquaza, and also get rid of things like Shaymin and Absol, who we don't want on our bench if we're up against like a Volcanion deck or a grass deck or a water deck. Just play down Parallel City. It reduces their attacks and also lets you get rid of things like Shaymin and Absol that could be relatively easy prizes for your opponent. As for the tools, we were running 2 Fighting Fury Belt just to give our basic Pokemon more longevity, allow them to hit harder. And one thing worth noting, you cannot use Fighting Fury Belt on Fright Night Yveltal. I make that mistake all the time, and I really hope I'm not going to do it, but I mean, knowing me, I'm going to make that mistake again in this live. So just bear with me and feel free to just do whatever you want to in the comments section if I happen to do that. Running 1 Floatstone just to give free retreat. I mean, Floatstone could run another switch, but I like Floatstone. Just slap that onto something and then it has free retreat. And once again, Floatstone and Fright Night don't work. Don't do it. You'll just look dumb like I do a lot of times. 4 DCE because that's... We want to run the maximum number because all of our main attacks rely on DCE, and then 4 Darkness Energy because this is kind of a dark deck. So I have rambled on for way too long. Let's just go ahead and see this deck in action. Alrighty, we have found one against Dart 1910 with a fighting deck. So even though we're running a dark deck, we will inherently have the type advantage just because of our main attackers having a fighting resistance. We do win the coin flip, so we do get to go first. That is even better. Of course, I would like to go first. I mean, you can go second in this deck. This deck doesn't mind going second some of the time, but usually it likes to go first just because, I mean, you're able to set up a little bit more consistently. And yes, I did say in the deck builder that you can get a Pitch Black Spear off turn 1, actually more often than you might think. But either way, going first is 100% the preference with this deck. Lets you set up and then also be able to Ninja Boy. Basically, it gives you a supporter before you potentially Ninja Boy if you need it, which is preferential a lot of the time. I start with an okay hand. I mean, I would like to have... I don't know. So I get him... this is bad. So what I am going to go ahead and do is just go ahead and limit... I'm going to go ahead and say go ahead 30,000 times. But what I'm going to do is just, yeah, play an energy, play Parallel City down, limit the number of bench spots my opponent has, Sycamore away my hand, which gets rid of my other Parallel City and my max elixir. So that really sucks. But I draw into some pretty decent stuff, actually. This is pretty nice because what I can do is, well, assuming my opponent doesn't end me out of this, I can go ahead and just Ninja Boy turn 1 because I will be able to play the DCE onto my Yveltal and then go ahead and Ninja Boy for an Yveltal EX, which will be able to, one-shot the Machop, and let's get that Darkness Energy out of there. I hate how if you, like, accidentally scroll over the energy while you, or scroll over a card while you go off TCGO or while you're alt-tabbing or something like that, that the card will just stay right up there. And yeah, I'm going to do that play that I talked about, play the DCE, play down the Ninja Boy, go ahead and get an Yveltal EX out there to be able to one-shot this Machop turn 2, and yeah, I mean, this deck is already working beautifully with Ninja Boy. We even get a Fighting Fury Belt off of our prizes. My opponent will not be able to knock me out. Well, actually, what would he need to knock me out? I think he would need another Strong Energy. He would need another Strong Energy and a Giovanni Scheme, so I might have been smart to play the Umbreon down, but I don't think... okay, so my opponent can't play the Giovanni Scheme, so we're fine in that regard, and even if he plays another Strong Energy down, it's not going to knock me out. He doesn't even play the Strong Energy. Just plays regular energy, going to be able to Yoga Kick. It's going to do 100 damage to me. That is just fine, but because my opponent did not play a basic Pokemon down, I will be able to knock it out next turn. And oh, well, my opponent doesn't even let me. What I would have done right there is play the Yveltal down, play the Fighting Fury Belt, play the Darkness Energy onto the Yveltal on the bench, and then knock out the Medicham with the Evil Ball. Well, that was if my opponent had gotten a basic Pokemon down. So that was a very quick match, but I was able to show off Ninja Boy immediately, so I'm grateful for that. But let's just go ahead and try to find another one with this deck. Alrighty, we have found another one against George MC 100 with... Okay, this could very well be a like Vespiquen item lock deck with Vileplume, so do get to go first. That is great for us, so if we can get set up, we might just be able to run through him, and wow, we get a very nice starting hand. I mean, I'd like to have a better supporter, but you know what? I can work with this. What I am going to do, go ahead and play both Yveltal down, because I mean, I'm going to play both of them anyway. What can I do? So... right now, I'm just hoping to Trainer's Mail, get something good. I want to see what my opponent is running, and that will determine what I do. Either way, Yveltal EX is going to be very good in this matchup. And Fright Knight is always a good one to start off with. Let's go ahead and Trainer's Mail. Ooh, I get an Ultra Ball. Perfect. So I'm going to be able to turn that Ultra Ball into some cards with the Shaymin. Let's go ahead and get rid of the Ninja Boy and the VS Seeker. You know what? I'm just going to go with the Mew. Just cause, I mean, I like that guy. He's cute. He can do some stuff. He has free retreat, which is the most important thing, and it's kind of why I'm gonna play him in this matchup. Play him down just cause. Then go ahead and Shaymin. Draw into 6 cards. That was a Shaymin 4/6. Gotta love it. And I get nothing. Alrighty. Wow, didn't get a supporter. But what I can do is, so Spinarak being active is good for me, because what I can't even do if he decides to String Shot and gets heads is I can Ultra Ball for my Yveltal break, play it right down onto my baby Yveltal, get rid of that paralysis, and then go for a Pitch Black Spear to hopefully one-shot the Spinarak. I hope he doesn't get an Ariados, because that would be kind of annoying, but then again, if he got an Ariados, that would mean that he has... that would mean that he wouldn't be able to String Shot unless he plays... So he'd have to have Wally plus Shrine of Memories and then a Grass Energy in order to be able to String Shot me and get the Ariados. So I really doubt that he is running all those in this deck. Turns out it is just an Ariados Sceptile Superior deck. So I mean, it's a rogue deck, but it's kind of cool nonetheless. So what I am going to go ahead and do, Ultra Ball, get rid of the Sycamore and the Umbreon. The Umbreon I'm going to Super Rod back into the deck just in case I need it late game. But yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and Ultra Ball, grab the Yveltal, break, give myself a little bit more longevity. Actually, Yveltal break works out really, really nicely in this matchup too, because my opponent can even poison me and then go for an Unseen Claw, and that will still leave me at a good amount of damage. So I do miss the first Max Elixir. That's kind of unfortunate. What's nice is I will be able to get some good damage onto this Sceptile. Let's go ahead and play the Max Elixir right there, and then go ahead and... yeah, you know what? I don't need to play anything else down. Go ahead and Pitch Black Spear, knock out the Spinarak, get some good damage onto the Sceptile, and take a prize. And it's a Parallel City, so that is really nice, because what I can do, play that sucker down after I play down a Shaymin or two or something like that. And I guess my opponent's just thinking about what he's going to promote. I mean, he has to promote the Sceptile. Otherwise, I'm just going to get another knockout and another hit off on the Sceptile. So yeah, he does promote it, like I thought. He's going to evolve into the Ariados. He's going to poison my Yveltal break, but because, like I said, my Yveltal break has 150 HP, I will be able to survive an Unseen Claw plus poison, so my opponent will not be able to take a prize. And with the switch in hand, I can just switch directly into my Yveltal EX on the bench and potentially... oh, yeah, now I 100% have the knockout, because I needed an energy to be able to knock out the Sceptile, so let's go ahead and play the energy there. Go ahead and Ultra Ball. Yeah, Ultra Ball, get rid of the... you know, let's get rid of the Umbreon. My opponent is clearly not running Mega Sceptile, and if he is, it's not significant enough at this point anyway to play it down. Let's play the Baby Yveltal down just to get another Shaymin for 6, and we're going to be able to pull off yet another... well, I guess I can't do the Shaymin for 6. I realize that I can't play the Parallel City down just yet because I would wouldn't have a spot for the Shaymin. So what I am going to do is play it down to not only decrease damage from him, but to get rid of those free prize Shaymins. And I could Sycamore, but I kind of like having the Parallel City to be able to, I guess, reduce damage from my opponent. And also I didn't need to play any of those. I really did not. Now I have a fresh Yveltal with 3 energy on it, ready to just tear through my opponent's team no matter what he does. And mostly I wanted to keep the Parallel City to counter the Forest of Giant Plants, but my opponent just concedes, so I didn't even need that. And once again, I was able to completely run through my opponent with a combination of Yveltals, and unfortunately wasn't able to use Ninja Boy in this matchup, but I don't know, the idea was still there. And yeah, I've gotten 2 matches, neither of them were particularly great, so let's go ahead and try to find an actually competitive match with this deck. Alrighty, we have found another one, hopefully better one, and against Carlos E, and it looks like we are in for a pretty competitive match because this is obviously against Giratina Darkrai with Hoopa and Shaymin, so this should be a very good match. Hopefully my opponent draws decently enough to where, well, hopefully we both draw decently enough, obviously, to where it's a good match. And yeah, now we're just waiting on my opponent to flip the coin. You can flip it whenever you want. Any day now. Someday. No, I'm not going to actually do that because that would be very annoying. And honestly, I think this matchup is a little bit in my favor, just because Yveltal is not knocked out in one shot by Chaos Wheel, and I can just spread damage to all of the EXs that my opponent has. I can Lysander in heavy retreating Hoopas and Giratinas to buy more turns to where I can pitch Black Spear. And although Umbreon will be absolutely useless, I think both of my Yveltals have great matchups. Have great matchups in this matchup in particular. And I even start with a very nice hand. Yeah, there it is. 100% Giratina Darkrai. We even see the Parallel City by my opponent, so I mean that's not going to affect me that much because I will be playing 2 Shaymin down. And if my opponent decides to Parallel City to limit my bench space, well, I'll just go ahead and get rid of those Shaymin. I even have the Ultra Ball immediately for the Shaymin. I have an Energy Switch if I hit a Max Elixir to get a turn 1 Pitch Black Spear powered up, so I'm really just kind of in the clear at this point. This is a very, very good starting hand for me. I'm kind of hoping my opponent starts off... Well, I hope my opponent starts off poorly so I get the win, obviously, but I want my opponent to start off well enough to where this actually turns into a pretty good match, because this is one of the matchups that I particularly like, because it's not a mega matchup, so I don't inherently have the advantage. This matchup really comes down to how well you play and is a matchup of skill. So I'm really looking forward to this, and my opponent once again is taking their sweet time figuring out what they're going to play down. I mean, odds are they have... Okay, it's like a choice of 1 or 2 Pokemon. There we go. Attaboy. Was it that hard? And yes, I would like to draw a card. And I get a Trainer's Mail? You know what? That's fine. Ooh. So my opponent starts with a Darkrai. I'm going to go ahead and play the Yveltal EX just because that is so strong against Giratina. Just having even just a 2 energy Evil Ball against a fully powered up Giratina is doing 140. And I can potentially get a turn 1 Pitch Black Spear. I mean, obviously I won't be able to go for it, but that's fine with me. Let's go ahead and Max Elixir. Yep, we're able to... If we could attack turn 1, we'd be able to pull off a turn 1 Pitch Black Spear. Let's go ahead and play the Parallel City down, limit his bench space. I mean, I know I usually want to play that to get rid of my Shaymins, but in this matchup, I might as well limit his bench space as soon as possible. Let's go ahead and... Yeah, let's... maybe... You know what? I think... I mean, I know that I've done this twice where I haven't played a Sycamore when I could have, but I'm actually going to hold on to my hand. I really don't think I have a reason to need to play it down. Plus, I have enough resources in my hand to be set for next turn. So, yeah, I mean, he can play down that, the Fighting Fury Belt, but Fright Knight shuts it off completely, so I'm not worried about it. And then there's the Shaymin. There's what I like to see. My opponent does Lysander in my Yveltal EX, so that is a bit unfortunate, meaning I'll have to draw into my Float Stone. And okay, let's go ahead and... Yeah, let's just go ahead and play the Yveltal break. Go ahead and I think... play the regular... So let's first Ultra Ball. get rid of the or not the Shaymin, the Absol and the Lysander to grab. Yeah, let's grab. I mean, I could go for like the Ninja Boy play of going for a Mew, trying to see if I can get the Mew active. But what I think I'm gonna do is just go ahead and power up a Giratina on the bench, or not because of Max Elixir, and then Sycamore, maybe draw into the Float Stone, which I do. Wow, that was perfect timing. Go ahead and play that retreat into my Yveltal break, and then go for a Pitch Black Spear onto the Darkrai and the Shaymin, set the Shaymin up to be knocked out next turn, and that is precisely why Yveltal is so strong in this type of matchup, because your opponent will inevitably play things like Shaymin and Hoopa, which are just sitting ducks. Shaymin gets knocked out by 2 straight Pitch Black Spears no matter where it is on the field. Hoopa gets knocked out by 3 in his Lysander bait, so you can bring that guy up and attack it while you start chipping away at stuff on the bench, setting those guys up for knockouts. And I mean, I'm just in a phenomenal position right now. I will be able to get an Yveltal EX powered up on the bench with a DCE or a Darkness Energy, whichever I feel like. Probably the DCE just to get some more damage on it. And my opponent's going to Hoopa, but it doesn't look like he has anything to counter my Parallel City, which is amazing for me, because that means I can go ahead and, well, my opponent will only be able to play one guy down, unless obviously he's slow rolling it with his own counter stadium in. Okay, so he just plays the Darkrai down and doesn't play the stadium yet. He must. Wow, I don't think he has it. So that is great for us. My opponent will be able to Dark Pulse for a whopping 60 damage. But at this point, like I said before, well, first off, let's go ahead and play the energy, play down the Max Elixir. Whiff again, that's annoying. But what I can do, go ahead and VS Seeker for that Lysander, bring in the Hoopa, which is the sitting duck. And here's the question. So I'm obviously going to Pitch Black Spear. Do I want to take the knockout on the Shaymin or the Darkrai? Or not the knockout on the Darkrai. Obviously, if I could take the knockout on the Darkrai, I'd take it. But do I want to put the Darkrai in range of being knocked out next turn? But yeah, I'm just going to take the 2 prizes on the Shaymin. My opponent would need something to get the Hoopa out of the active, and a Float Stone wouldn't work, so it would have to be a switch because of Fright Night. And then I would have been able to just continually Pitch Black Spear, and we were able to take the game pretty quickly and convincingly against that deck. That just shows you how strong Pitch Black Spear Yveltal is. And I was skeptical of that Yveltal at first, but now I'm seeing its power, especially in this EX-dominated metagame. And that was a very good match, but we have a little bit of time, so let's go ahead and see if we can try to find one last one with this deck. Alrighty, we have found, hopefully, what will be the last one against I Am Big Kaiser with a Dark Psychic Steel in normal deck. So, I mean, if we saw the Dragon, I would assume it's another, like, Darkrai Hoopa. But, I mean, I honestly have no idea what my opponent is running. We see the Mega Charizard coin. That does not help us out at all. And, okay, so we start with an Yveltal EX. Not my ideal starter, but at the same time, it's not a horrible starter either. Because what I can do is, well, I even have a Ninja Boy so I can get a Fright Night Yveltal if I want. But, okay, oh, this is a Mega Rayquaza deck. Well, I guess I know what I'm doing. So let's go ahead and play the DCE down onto that guy. Go ahead and Ultra Ball, get rid of the Ranger and the Lysander to grab the Shaymin. One Shaymin is prized. That is good to know. What I'm going to immediately do is Ninja Boy, because otherwise Mega Rayquaza would be able to set up way too quickly with that first turn Mega Evolution and stuff like that. So I want to shut off my opponent's tools as quickly as possible so that I have to set him back a little bit. And then I am going to... Oh, crap. Guys, I did it. Darn it. I thought I was doing so well. I was doing so well. I mean, I did get a first turn Pitch Black Spear, which, I mean, come on, give me some props on that one. But I was doing so well not playing tools onto my Fright Night Yveltal until now. But, I mean, you know what? To be fair, I wouldn't have played it on the Shaymin. And this way, if my opponent plays a Hex Maniac or something, so that he can get the first turn Mega Evolutions, then I will have the increased HP. So you know what? I mean, even though there was obviously a mistake and a misplay on my part, I stand by my decision. I think it was an excellent play, and I am okay with it. Actually, I'm not okay with it, because that was obviously a dumb play, and I'd rather put that on a Yveltal EX or something like that. But you know what? Nothing I can do about it now, and we will just move on, and hopefully my opponent will get tricked into thinking that tools are active because I played a tool onto my very obviously tool canceling Yveltal. So I don't know, maybe we can get a misplay out of my opponent with it. But either way, I mean, I'm going to end next turn, get rid of my hand. And this way I won't have to at least draw into it. Maybe I can draw into something a little bit better. And my opponent's getting set up. So that's a little bit scary. I do have the comfort of knowing that because of Fright Night, my opponent will not be able to Emerald Break turn 1. So that's just something I can kind of hang my hat on. I do want to be strategic about how I play my Parallel City. Obviously, Parallel City is going to be very, very good in this matchup because it will limit the damage that Mega Ray can put out. And also, Umbreon will be very good if I can set up a Mega Ray to get knocked out. But at the same time, a Shaymin is a very, very easy 2 prizes just from 2 turns of Pitch Black Spearing, and I don't want my opponent to be to worry about that. Or I want my opponent... what am I trying to say? I honestly have zero idea what I was trying to say. And I don't want to give my opponent a free out for playing all of those guys. So what I am going to do is play down another Fright Night Yveltal, play down a Mew, play down the Fighting Fury Belt onto the Mew, because that is how you play it. And then let's go ahead and Lysander in something with a big retreat cost. You know what? That Hoopa's looking good. Let's go ahead and Lysander in that Hoopa. Go ahead and Pitch Black Spear, get some damage onto the Shaymin. I mean, I could be setting up the Rayquaza for an Umbreon endgame knockout, but I'm really not one that likes to put all my eggs in one basket. So I think my best play is to just start damaging all the things my opponent puts down, like punish my opponent for putting down Shaymin and Hoopa, and then hope that Yveltal EX can come through in the end of the game. So I think that's going to be my play. Like I said, I 100% could put the Umbreon... I could be setting up for the Umbreon endgame knockout on the Mega Rayquaza, but I honestly think this is the better choice in this instance. So my opponent does play a Zorua down. I mean, even if he gets the Zoroark and the Floatstone, he will not be able to take a knockout because, well, he'll not be able to retreat because Floatstone is canceled out by my Fright Night. So my opponent has to have a switch. I mean, unless he has a switch or wants to waste a DCE on the Hoopa, he will not be able to get that thing out of the active spot. Well, I guess he can get it out of the active spot, but then he's just stuck with another 2 retreater in Zoroark. So I'm still in a phenomenal position. What I can do right now is potentially Lysander in something else. Like Lysander in the Zorua, get a kill, but then again my opponent gets a free Mega Rayquaza after that. Nah, I think I'm just going to keep the Hoopa active, go ahead and Ultra Ball, start powering up this Yveltal on the bench even more. I mean, if I wanted to, I could start doing some, I could potentially start powering up Umbreon, but I don't think that's really the play. Let's go, I think Yveltal EX is the better play, along with the baby Yveltals and Pitch Black Spearing, so that's what we're going to go with. Let's go ahead and play that Yveltal down, go ahead and play the baby Yveltal just because. Pitch Black Spear, take 2 prizes on the Shaymin, and yeah, at this point I'm just in such a phenomenal position. My opponent has to have a switch or a Zoroark to get Hoopa out of the active position, but even if he does, it's not safe. It is still 2 prizes sitting on the bench, and Fright Night Yveltal is coming through so ridiculously hard in this matchup. I love it. It's not only shutting down the speed that Mega Rayquaza usually has, but it is punishing my opponent for playing the Shaymins and Hoopas onto the bench, usually which are usually boons for that type of deck. So, oh man, I'm in a fantastic position right now. I can start powering up my Yveltal EX on the bench for the inevitable situation that he does take a knockout with his Mega Rayquaza, or that he does get his Mega Rayquaza active and take a knockout on my baby Yveltal. So, what I think I'm actually going to do is, you know what, I could start attacking the Mega Rayquaza on the bench, and yeah, okay, so my opponent even just concedes right there. I would have been able to, if I hit the Max Elixir, that is, I would have been able to fully power up my Yveltal EX, just have another attacker ready to go hit for 120 on that Mega Rayquaza, so I would only need to Pitch Black Spirit twice in order to set it up for the knockout. So that just shows you how ridiculously strong this deck can be in the right matchups. I mean, I know I didn't face any electric decks, but there's no particularly good electric decks right now, so I'm not too worried. And I do think that Dark Ninja Boy is a deck that needs to be prepared for and people need to watch out for. But Like I said in the beginning, check out my boy Aura. His link is in the description below. Thank you for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. And this is Styx signing out. Why not? See you guys.